kids are screaming and acting crazy.
They just let them sit there and wait for it to be over,
They're so calm.
In America, they get a little smack on the bottom and haul them away,
Ella even, she's only 5 and she's like, Mom,
he's naked over there. One of the kids runs into one of his friends and is like, I want to go over to my friend's house. I'm like, okay, bye. See you later. You don't have to go and drive them there. And they just run into their friend and they go off and they're on their merry way.
Hallo, Servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. And actually just came back from a 3-week-long trip back home to see my friends and family, but also to go to Oktoberfest, which finally took place again for the first time since 2019. And then Ben and I also went to Italy for almost 2 weeks, to Venice, Rome, and Florence. And I also surprised him with a quick detour to Santorini in Greece for his birthday. So yeah, it was a very eventful 3 weeks. We had an amazing time. If you want to see all the photos and videos from the trip, I'll be sharing those on Instagram and Facebook in the next few days and next few weeks because I have a lot. So be sure to follow me on Feli from Germany. And Ben and I also launched a new page together while we were traveling, which is called Ben and Feli, and it's on Instagram and on TikTok. But we didn't have a lot of time to post on there either, but we do have a lot of content in store. So there's going to be a lot of content on that page as well in the next few weeks. So make sure to give us a follow as well if you want to see more about the two of us together and our everyday life and everything, and of course, our travels. So as I said, we had an unforgettable time, but if you've ever done a city vacation with lots of sightseeing where pretty much every single day is packed, you probably know that it can also get a little exhausting. I'm not trying to complain here at all, I promise, but after we got back, I think my body just gave me a clear sign to rest a little. So yeah, I got sick literally the day we came back, and I still am a little sick, maybe you can hear it. It's not COVID, but it must have been something else. I still feel a little tired and dizzy and I have a headache and all that fun stuff. But long story short, with the trip being so packed and then me being sick the last few days, I unfortunately didn't get to work on videos as much as I had hoped throughout the last few weeks. So thanks for being patient. Here I am again, and I'm so glad that I can finally share a really interesting conversation that I had with Sara and Kevin from the amazing YouTube channel My Merry Messy Life. They're a family with 4 kids who moved from Atlanta, Georgia to a little town in Bavaria in early 2021. I'm super excited that I got to collaborate with them because I obviously don't have any kids myself and therefore don't have any experience with the challenges that come with moving your kids to a foreign country where they don't speak the language, switching school systems, and being surrounded by a different parenting culture, if you will. So they can really add a whole new perspective to my channel, which is really cool. Before we jump into the conversation, make sure that you go over to their channel and hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it, I promise. And you'll also notice that one of their most recent videos is actually also a video with me about another very interesting topic, and that is drinking culture in Germany versus the US. So make sure you check that one out as well. But first, let's hear about what Sara and Kevin have found to be the biggest differences in regards to parenting, the school system, and being a kid in Germany compared to the US. Hi, Sara and Kevin. I'm so happy to finally get to talk to you.
Hi, we're so excited to meet you, Feli.
Yes.
Welcome to my channel. My first question for you guys will basically be, what is the main difference, or what are the main differences when it comes to raising kids and parenting in Germany compared to the US? What are like the first things that come to mind?
I know what I would say first.
Go ahead.
We probably have different things, maybe. I would say independence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you're going to say too?
Yeah. Kids have a lot more independence.
Yeah. It is so nice for a kid to just walk out of their house and go down to the Eisdiele and get some ice cream, or go to the supermarket and get some candy or chips or whatever, and and then be able to hop on their bicycle and go to their friend's house. I mean, you can do that in your own neighborhood. Go to your friend's house. Yeah,
in America you can within the neighborhood, but yeah, you really don't ever go outside of your neighborhood. I mean, if you live in the city, I think that might be different, but most Americans live in suburban areas or rural areas, and you just can't get anywhere without your parents driving you. I mean, that's that's like the thing in America. You're
a taxi driver.
Taxi driver for your kids to take them everywhere.
Yeah, and that's so crazy. Like growing up in Germany, I never really thought about that. Like you see so many TV shows and movies that covers like being a kid in the US, like cartoons even. And then later on you have these like high school shows. And as a German kid, you always think, oh, that's so cool that they get to drive at 16. Like they're so much more independent than we are. But you don't realize that part about it because they don't really show that. Like they show that they have to get on the school bus and everything. And like maybe if you see parents driving their kids to school on TV, you think, oh, that's so nice of the parents to do that. But as a kid, you just don't realize that they have to do that.
That's the only way. Right.
And actually, a lot of the TV shows and movies are filmed in these they're filmed in urban areas that are in suburbia. So they're like filmed in little neighborhoods like in California that nobody really lives in. The average American doesn't live on this picturesque, perfect looking street with sidewalks. Most places don't even have sidewalks where you actually could maybe walk to the grocery store in the movie. But in real life, that's not actually happening. So.
But it is a good point you make about being 16 and being able to drive, because that's 2 years earlier here. And I guess it is true. Once you're a later teen, then you can go and drive and get around. But I'm not sure we have any more independence in the sense, than German teenagers. Plus, you have to be able to buy a car, or your parents get you a car, and that's not always the case. But, even like my nieces and nephews, they didn't get their driver's license in America right away. They didn't. They waited till they were 18 or 19 even sometimes to get their driver's license. So not everybody gets it right away anyway.
Yeah, true. So what was the area like that you lived in Atlanta, right? Is where you guys moved from? Yeah. Were you in a suburb like you just described, or what was it like?
Yeah, we were in a suburb, and, to go anywhere, you had to drive, 5 or 8 kilometers to get anywhere. I remember when we were moving to Germany and like measuring, to get to the next town here where there's a ski lift to go up to the mountain, that was like the same distance as getting just like outside of our neighborhood and,
that's crazy.
And to the first traffic light outside of our neighborhood. And that wasn't even getting to any store or anything, so definitely you had to drive 10 minutes, to get anywhere from our old house. The school here is, less than a kilometer away, and you couldn't even get outside of our neighborhood in a kilometer.
Well, we lived in a giant neighborhood, but there's lots of giant neighborhoods.
Okay, so you just talked about the independence. How does that influence you guys in your everyday life? How has your everyday life changed based on that?
Well, the kids get to school on their own, besides Ella, who's in kindergarten.
Oh, and then like we're out somewhere, we maybe go to a park all as a family, and one of the kids runs into one of his friends and is like, I want to go over to my friend's house. I'm like, okay, bye, see you later. You don't have to go and drive them there, and they just run into their friend and they go off and they're on their merry way. So, in that sense, we're not always having to worry about, going to get them or picking them up or whatever. They just ride their bikes back, and it makes it a lot easier.
Festivals, as you well know, there's so many festivals, at least in Bayern. I don't know about the rest of Germany, but we have so many little festivals. And so the kids will just be like, I don't know if I want to stay, Mom. I don't know if I want to go. So we say, okay, just come and see it and experience it. And then you can just leave when you want to. And they just leave.
Yeah, they go on home when they're bored.
We can stay. Yeah, we can drinking our beers and they can go home.
Do your kids have keys now? Like you talked about in a video about like the Schlüsselkinder?
The oldest one has keys, but a lot of times we just leave one of the doors open.
Oh, okay. Well, I know you don't live in a big city, so I guess you can do that.
So here, if
it's very safe here.
If anybody, who wasn't supposed to came near our house, there'd be like 5 neighbors that would know as soon as it happened. So.
Yeah, we have our good like German Oma across the street, who looks out the window, and I like that. I'm glad somebody's watching. Like our house.
Yeah, built-in neighborhood watch. That's like what you always have with German neighborhoods, especially when there's older people. There's always a few people that like definitely make sure that everyone follows the rules, and they always like watch everyone. That can be annoying, but I guess in that case, if that's a nice person.
Has its benefits.
What other parts of parenting or also from the kid's perspective of like being a kid is different in Germany?
I mean, one thing that still surprises Ella is how all the kids ages 5 and under around here run around without, when they're at a swim bad or at a lake or the ocean, you know, when they're swimming, that they just run around with no clothes on, you know, totally naked or have no pants on. And Ella, even, she's only 5 and she's like, Mom, oh my
naked
gosh.
That's true.
That was a culture shock.
Yeah.
I already knew that. I mean, we'd already lived in France and we remember going on vacations and be like, wow, kids just run around with no clothes on.
Yeah.
They do that in France too.
It's so much easier to take care of little kids if they don't have all the clothes and stuff on. So,
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like it, but our
do
kids
you guys do that
too
now?
No.
We haven't, no.
They're old enough to decide now, and
Right.
they're not comfortable doing
Yeah, Ella's
that.
really the only one in the right age for that. And no, she definitely does not want to be naked in front of strangers. Yeah.
We're very American in that sense still, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a weird difference because, like, I actually did that as a kid. I don't really remember it actively, but my parents tell me, and, like, there's videos and photos and stuff where, like, I apparently, when we were on vacation, I didn't really want to wear clothes until, like, the age of 4 or 5. So we have family photos with, like a vacation photo with my whole family being dressed. Even my little brother, who was a baby, like, he was in his diapers and, like, was wearing a shirt and everything. And I'm just there completely naked with, like, my dress mom, my dress dad. And, like, I didn't think anything of it at the time because it was so normal. And, like, I never really realized that that was even an issue. I mean, maybe that's also just me not being very critical with it. But in the US, everything's always, like, so sexualized. And, oh, what if there's, like, a creeper? Like, all these things. And, like, I personally never really thought about it like that until I came to the US, which, like, of course, I think that is a valid point in some way. But on the other hand, like, I don't think you can always worry about criminals and like, pedophiles and everything that much.
Right.
Like, nudity is part of life. And, like, in Europe, we're definitely more comfortable with it.
Oh,
so, yeah,
yes.
that's just such an interesting difference for sure. I know you guys talk a lot about the school system and, like, you have a kid in kindergarten, elementary school, gymnasium, and you have shared super long videos about all of that. So there's really a lot to talk about. But it's been a while for you guys now, like a little bit over a year of having your kids in the school system, right? So I was wondering, what's your overall perception? What do you think of the German school system so far?
I think it's been great, especially going through a year of gymnasium with the older boys. They really love it there. They feel like the teachers give them some responsibility and, like, talk to them as little adults in a way, you know, like, okay, you didn't do your homework. Well, you get a strike. You know, that's just the way it is. They don't yell at them or fuss at them, wherever. You just live with the with the consequences in gymnasium.
Yeah.
So in that sense, they feel empowered to make their own decisions and take care of their life. And then, you know, me as a parent looking at the way they teach, and you know, we did this whole math video, and I've just been really impressed, you know, trained as an engineer, of how well they teach math and how early they try and get you ready, you know, for that advanced math. And, you know, even all the way down in second and third grade, they're already laying the foundation for that. And I think they do a really good job, at least on the math side. And then it's just cool for them to learn all the languages. You know, Gabriel learns French last year. You know,
He's our oldest,
yeah,
13-year-old.
And so doing the languages is really cool. And I don't know, so far I like it. I think it is tricky at that 4th to 5th grade transition. That's a little early still in my sense of trying to make that choice of which of those 3 tracks do they go. But if you choose the right way and they get settled, as our kids have, it worked out well. But I can see how that can be tricky at that age. There's some kids that might not be know yet or be ready to make that choice. So it is a little early.
Yeah, and I know, like, with kindergarten, we have videos on that too. There's a huge cultural difference in the US and Germany, and how in the US academics are taught in kindergarten from ages 3 to 5.
Yeah.
It's already heavy in academics, and it gets serious fast. My 2 oldest, I never sent them to preschool. It's not required. And
so I think we have to clarify real quick that, like, preschool is more, like, in the US is more like the German kindergarten, right? The 2 terms are switched.
Indeed.
And then kindergarten is more like Vorschule in Germany. So like kindergarten is like
That's
one
exactly
year before first grade in the US.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah. That's very confusing if you don't know the system. Definitely.
Yeah.
We didn't even send our kids to kindergarten, the first 2 kids, because I just was like doing stuff with them at home and they didn't really need it. And anyway, so then the second 2, the last 2, I did send them to preschool and they would complain. They didn't know how to tell me what they didn't like until later, but they finally told me it was all the worksheets that they had to sit down at their desks at 3 and 4 years old and fill out all these worksheets. And they would say, Mommy, I just want to play. I just want to run around. I don't like writing all these worksheets and stuff. And I was like, oh gosh. So I wish they had been able, well, I mean, Ella is doing kindergarten here in Germany, but that our older one, Griffin, could have done kindergarten here because he would have loved it.
Yeah, it's more play-based, but still learning. They teach them social skills and sharing and all of that. And
all through play.
Yeah, all through play.
The way kids learn.
I mean, you just go to kindergarten here in Germany and they play on the playground and they do all this stuff and they have the freedom. They have the freedom to choose what activities they do. And I do like that.
To an American, the German kindergarten looks like a Montessori school. It looks like a Montessori or Waldorf school, even though it's not technically that, but that's what Montessori schools look like in the US.
Yeah.
And they're very expensive and we could never afford. I mean, we're talking $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 a year to send your kid to Montessori preschool.
Yeah,
you know,
crazy.
It's
those
ridiculous.
prices are just like on a different scale. That's like unimaginable for a German to pay that much. I mean, I know there's also private schools in Germany. I don't know what the prices are for Montessori in Germany, but like, I don't think it's that high.
Way cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not that high.
Yeah, we have friends who are doing it right now. And it's I don't know the exact price, but I know it's very minimal.
That's crazy. Well, regarding the school system, so you had a really positive perception of it so far, from what it sounds like. I know that a lot of Germans especially, but I think also people from other countries, we're aware that, especially in Gymnasium, but also in Grundschule, you do learn a lot relatively quickly. A lot of exchange students that come to the US from Germany always complain like, oh, well, I'm like 2 years behind, even though I'm in the same grade in the American high school. Like, that's what I did 2 years ago in Germany. But at the same time, a lot of Germans also criticize that the German school system is very outdated in a way, and it's like methods, and a lot of it is just should have been reformed like decades ago. So is that something that you guys have experienced too, that you felt like, well, this feels a little old-fashioned here?
Yeah, we have bumped across that. We've had some of our kids' teachers be, sort of old school, strict, and
and the way that they discipline them. I've seen that more. I don't know. The teaching methods are hard to compare for me, at least, because I couldn't understand all the German when I first arrived. But you understood more than me. But the way that they handle classroom management and behavioral issues in Grundschule is quite old-fashioned. In kindergarten, I think they do a great job. They don't punish them. They redirect them.
Yeah.
But I feel like in Grundschule that we've had one really strict teacher, and she's known for being strict, and that's been hard.
And there's a lot about following the rules, and they tell all the time.
All the hefts.
All the hefts. You have to have the right, have the right notebook, and it's the wrong one, and then the kids get in trouble because they don't have the right one, and I don't even know what the right one is. And then having
getting in trouble in gym class.
Yeah.
If you don't have your gym shoes,
have to have your gym shoes,
the right shorts.
So following all the rules, and then having to write really neatly and making them redo work because it isn't neat enough. And I mean, there's some value in that for sure. I mean, heck, I went through that in engineering school about having to write everything perfect. But they're a little bit strict in an old school way.
Yeah.
We bumped into some of that.
Which is probably okay if you're a German and you grew up here and you understand the culture and you know from the beginning that's how it is. But like our kids, we didn't have a clue when they first arrived. So if the teachers just could have been a lot more nicer, if they can just recognize that, and I'm sure there's many teachers who do recognize it, but the one we had just didn't. Yeah. And she was kind of clueless about what it's like to be a foreigner and how he just doesn't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah, like for example, like she said, when he forgot his gym shoes and he couldn't take part in gym class because he didn't have the right gym shoes, then they took him aside and gave him a bunch of math sheets that he had to work out. And so he felt like he was being punished, that he has to go and sit and do these math things instead of going and have fun in gym, when really the whole purpose was just to give him something to do so that he wasn't sitting there being idle. So, well, you give him math and, for him, it felt like a punishment, but it was just supposed to be to keep him busy, so it just perceived a little different.
And that's crazy because that's usually more like the parents' responsibility. And I'm not trying to blame you guys, but if a kid has the wrong notebooks, they don't usually go and buy those themselves,
it was our
right?
fault and not his. That's exactly right. It's absolutely our fault.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually, looking back, I never realized it at the time because I was a privileged kid with great parents who took care of everything. But I think German elementary school is very much based on the parents taking care of a lot of things. And if you don't have a great home and parents that can do that, then you're screwed in a lot of cases. And then that's a big...
Or you have parents who just don't know what to do.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you guys are learning and everything, and your kid shouldn't be punished for that. Even for German families, that can be a very unfair situation where privileged families who have two parents that have a high education that are able to be home in the afternoons or in the evening to do these things with their kids, those kids often end up in gymnasium more than other kids who would be just as intelligent, but they just don't have the same support system, and then they end up in Hauptschule or Mittelschule, and then it's sometimes hard for them to work their way up from there.
Yep. And it's the same in the U.S.
Yeah, the same issues in the U.S. too.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought, at least in the U.S., everyone goes to the same school, right? The same middle school and the same high school, and then you can still, if you perform well in a class, you can be in the advanced class for math and not in the advanced one for another subject, for example. And I've always felt like that was maybe a better approach compared to dividing them at the age of 10. And then it's kind of difficult to change.
That's true, but it depends on where your school district is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in a school district that has all those opportunities, because your parents are well off and live in a good school district, but these other kids that don't have the parents that have had the college education, they'll end up in a school district that doesn't have the same opportunity. So, you end up with the same effect.
Can totally suck. I mean, it'd be really bad. Feli, as you probably know, in the U.S., when you go house hunting, it's very important that you find the right school district because it can make or break your child's education and future. And so what is it like in Germany? Is that also a similar situation, or?
I mean, I've never really heard of that, to be honest, because as you guys probably know now with your experience, elementary school is usually assigned by school district, or I don't even know what that's called, honestly, in the German lingo, because we don't really have school districts.
I mean, it's done by Bundesland,
sense.
Right?
Well, the curriculum is done by Bundesland, so by state. And then Grundschule is really the only school where you're obligated to go to the school that's nearest to you. And that's assigned to you. You're in this, I guess, school district to go to this elementary school. But then afterwards, you can pick which Gymnasium and Realschule and Hauptschule you go to based on different academic preferences or teacher preferences or whatever. So I'd never heard that really when people look for a new home in Germany, that it's important for them to be close to a certain school or anything like that. I mean, also, I should say I'm from Munich, so you can always get to any school. It might be a little bit farther to get there in the morning. The commute might be longer, but you can get from one end of the city to the other end in a reasonable time compared to American times. For Germans, it might be long if you say you take 45 minutes to get to school in the morning and you have to switch buses 3 times. But I know for a lot of Americans, especially in rural areas, that's nothing. That's normal.
I mean, our kids' school bus ride was 40 or 50 minutes that they were sitting on the bus.
And we were 5 minutes away from the school.
Right, because they had to go all the way around everybody. They probably could have walked to the school faster if it was safe.
True, because they pick all the kids up at home. Yeah.
And if only the route to get to the school were safe. They could have ridden their bikes and walked every day. We had no snow there. And maybe one day out of the whole year that had ice. So if only they could have ridden their bikes, they could have actually done it.
That's crazy. But to get back to your question, I don't believe that that's a big factor when it comes to location and house hunting. And I don't think that the taxes play a role there too? Because like in the US, you have this weird situation where like property taxes are parts of the school funding. So like the more expensive the neighborhood and the more expensive the properties are there, the more money the school gets. Which is like counterproductive.
It's mind-blowing.
What you want to achieve, really. Fight inequality, and like this way, like inequality is just being
built into the system.
Exactly. So circling back to something that you said about like disciplining, I was wondering what other methods of disciplining did they do in school?
All I know about is that the teacher just fusses at them a lot. I don't know if she's yelling, but lots of, I mean, she even uses shame, like, this is the worst class in all of
you guys are the worst behaved of all of the classes in third grade or whatever.
In the U.S., they would often, at our school, they would take away recess as punishment, which I hated, and most parents do. I understand teachers, their hands are freaking tied in the U.S. They work so hard and they get paid so little. So I'm not criticizing U.S. teachers, but taking away recess, the whole reason they're acting out is because they need more recess. It's because they need to run around outside. They need that exercise. They need to move their bodies. And when you take away the thing that helps them, you're just making it harder for yourself. So I don't know that I've seen in both countries, teachers need more help, more training in classroom management and how to handle it. I would love to see positive discipline being done in both countries, and I've not seen that in either country. You know, being able, some of the teachers we had in the U.S. were fantastic and did a better job with their classroom management. But, you know, teachers, it's like being a parent. I mean, you're not just teaching them, you're babysitting them, and they need help. Yeah. I do not think there's enough training in either country on teaching teachers how to handle the students and their behavior. And I don't think the teaching methods in either country actually cater to children, but that would be a whole nother video. I think education needs to be turned upside down on its head. I don't think we've ever taught children the way they should be taught, which is through play and movement and fun and song. And kids are not being taught in a way that works well for them. Yeah. But I agree that's with in both countries.
The reason why I was a little interested in the whole disciplining thing is that from a German perspective, I always look at parenting and schools in the US to be more, like the authority, the hierarchies are like stronger, I often feel like, in the US, like where it comes to parents really trying to be more like strict with their kids, telling them no, forbidding them things out of love. Whereas I always felt like maybe that was just my bubble, but in Germany that parents oftentimes respect their kids more and like listen to what their kids are telling them and what their needs are. And one big thing that recently was in the news again that I also talked about is corporal punishment also, which is like not a thing in Germany. It hasn't been a thing in decades. It's illegal
in Germany.
We talked about that in one of our videos too.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one yet. Okay, so now I don't even know what you said in that video, but I also talked about it recently on my channel. And then like last week or 2 weeks ago, that school district in Missouri was in the German news because they brought like paddling back. And in Germany, that was like, what is happening? Are we in the Middle Ages? Because a lot of Germans weren't really aware of that was even still a thing in the US.
Definitely still a thing in places in America. Yep.
It makes my stomach like flip to know that they did that in Missouri. It makes me sick. That should not be happening.
Was that a thing in Atlanta? I don't know where it's legal and where it's illegal. No.
I don't think in our school, it may be legal in Georgia, but it was not used in our schools. I mean, I definitely lived through that. And in my schools, there were definitely kids that go to the principal's office and got paddled or whatever, you know. So I experienced that. You know, of course, that's a long time ago.
But also not that long. Because for me, for example, like that's more something my grandparents experienced, like back in the 30s. Even my parents didn't really experience that anymore. So
that was definitely a thing.
Wow.
But but parents do that in America too. I mean,
spanking is a big form of punishment.
Come here, son, you're going to get a whooping. I mean, it's not an exaggeration. That's not an exaggeration.
No, I know. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And like the first few times I've like been around it, I was like, very shocked. I was like, what in the world? Like, should I say something? Is this okay? Like,
it's upsetting.
Yeah, am I witnessing abuse? Should I like speak out about it? And then I realized over time, like, oh wow, this is actually still very common here. And like a lot of my friends then, like I ended up having conversations with them, and they would tell me, yeah, like that's how I grew up. And like the whole I'm putting soap in someone's mouth thing as well. I thought that was
to wash your mouth.
That happened to me. Yep. If I would say a cuss word or say shut up or something, my mom would wash my mouth out with soap.
And it's interesting. We see German parents here be so calm with their kids in public.
Even with tantrums.
Yeah,
the
kids are
screaming and acting crazy.
They just let them sit there and wait for it to be over, you know.
They're so calm.
In America, they get a little smack on the bottom and haul them away, you know?
Yep. And that also goes, I think it ties in directly with the U.S. being a much more religious country than Germany. Because, I mean, Germany used to be religious, so spanking probably was a really big deal for a long time. But that's why that's continued, is religion. And a lot of my friends, our friends in the U.S. who aren't as religious, don't use spanking. Mm-hmm. So I think it directly ties to that.
It's weird if you think about it. Like, if you just hear what you just said, it makes no sense that religion would play a role in that, because like religion doesn't teach you to like hit others.
No, it doesn't. But I think you're supposed to respect authority in a way, or, you know, maybe like you say, that hierarchical piece of, you know, they're your elders and God's
obeying your parents is obeying God.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but still, why do you have to use violence to teach that? It still doesn't make sense.
No, I will never understand that.
It would be nice if they would teach more methods, and especially in the U.S., teach methods of how to correct behavior without violence and without severe punishment, you know, because there's many other methods, but they're not widely
It's quick and
understood.
it gets you short-term results. You know,
right, with long-term,
it'll shock the kid into stopping what they're doing at that time, but then you're just teaching them to solve their problems with violence or threatening, you know, so.
And there's so many psychological studies, which we talked about in that video. Yeah. We found study after study after study after study after study on the long-term psychological effects of spanking, and it's pretty bad. Yeah. Anxiety, depression, lack of self-esteem, and
aggression also.
It's really clear.
Yeah. I looked into those too, and like all these studies of like countries where it's forbidden, how like there is lower crime rates among teenagers and young people, and like you would think people would listen to that, but guess not.
No,
not necessarily.
Okay, we've been going on for so long, and I did not mean for this to happen, but of course, of course it happened. I don't even know if we really talked so much about your kids' perspective, but maybe we can make this the very last question. What's something that your kids love about being a kid in Germany, and what's something that maybe they miss about being a kid in the US?
That's a good question.
I do think they like the independence. They like being able to go places when they want to go places. What they miss the most is our friends and family.
Yeah. Okay, besides that.
Oh, okay.
But it's something that actually has to be in Germany.
We did have a really awesome elementary school that we loved in the U.S. So I know they missed their elementary school when we came, because it was a very warm, very friendly place, and it wasn't so much the same here. Yeah. But we also came in the middle of COVID lockdowns.
But I mean, that brings us to the point of, you know, the way that the teachers discipline the kids. And the elementary school, you know, in America, you walk into elementary school and it looks like this happy place. You just got this vibe that it's like it's fun and exciting and cozy. And here you don't get the same feel when you walk into Grundschule. It's more like, here's where you come to learn. Here, you know, this is where good stuff happens. You know, it's not like it's a bad environment, but I do think it is a little bit more warm and fuzzy at a elementary school in America than here. So that may be one thing.
I don't really know, honestly, what they miss, except for our friends.
I mean, most of what they talk about is just the transition and the language and everything being different. So I think that drowns out all of those other sort of cultural differences. It's hard to pry them out of the kids to see what they're really at after there.
Do they miss things like after-school activities that are part of the school system in the U.S., or are they good there? Are there enough clubs and Vereine?
No, because they didn't really get into those when we were there.
I mean, Grayson, when we did baseball.
That's more in high school.
I mean, we did baseball, but Grayson, who's the one that's interested to do those things, he's doing that now. He's playing hockey and doing all these things.
Yeah.
So he's part of those clubs.
So just like in a Verein then?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in the Verein.
So they're doing the kids that are wanting that here are doing it here.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for doing this really long conversation with me that kind of went all over the place, but there's really so much to talk about, as I said in the beginning. And if you guys, my audience, want to learn more about it, definitely check out their channel, My Merry Messy Life. And you guys really have 10, 12 videos, probably more than that, even just about parenting and being a kid and the schools and the independence, really all of that. Playgrounds, there's really so much to talk about. So yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this video with me.
Absolutely. It's been our pleasure.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, Ella.
And there she went right back to being a parent. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. And of course, I'd love to hear your opinions and experiences with this topic as well in the comments below so that hopefully we can continue the conversation in the comment section. Big thank you again to Sara and Kevin. You can click here to watch the video that we did on their channel about drinking culture. And if you want to see more of me and all of my vacation photos, check out my social media accounts right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Tschüss!